time for another update. It has been actually hectic 2 weeks, and although I haven't actually done all that much, as you can see, it's a big mess around here. But I wanted to show you what's been going on since the last time. And let's start off with the indoor side of the Great Hall. And now we have all the candles placed. Really glad to show you, and it's actually really great looking in my opinion. I've done my best to kind of, as explained before, to use all the possible angles I could place them, just to make sure they're not too simplistic and they're not really placed the same way. And basically I was always going for example, these constructions on the front, the ones in the back to be kind of positioned differently, for them to stick out, the candles in the back to be in a different position than the ones on the front, and so on. So as you can see, as I position the camera exactly centrally, you can see that all sorts of candles stick out and they form this kind of image, and very few candles actually overlap with one another. And yeah, that was really important. I think it actually looks pretty nice. I actually done a few more kind of little tweaks here and there, changed some hairstyles. I decided that maybe I had way too many hairstyles that were similar. I didn't want to have more than one of the ones that are actually a bit different. So yeah, now I see that I have two pink ones still. I will replace one of them, I just noticed. But the blue ones, I've removed them, just placed some other ones. Just didn't want these kind of too extravagant hairstyles and colors to be just too many. Also, I have extended the width of the teacher's table by one stud and added a few things. Now, I am not really sure if I should place a little more food, and I'll tell you why. Now, the problem is when you look from the door that is closed now, you want to see the teachers' faces, and if you place all sorts of glasses and cups and food in front of them, you will not be able to see it. So that's that. So for now, I really wanted just to place enough things, not for the table not to be empty in a way, but still not too many, so we can actually recognize their faces and see who is actually who. Might end up adding a few more items, but basically I think this is pretty much sufficient. After the little additions inside the Great Hall, I was thinking what exactly to do, and I stumbled onto the last piece. Well, that's what's left of it, but this was the last piece of what was actually left of the initial castle Great Hall before I demolished it and rebuilt it. And this was Filch's office, which was actually placed somewhere around here in the old side building. And I had kept this little module because I wanted just to transition it to a new place wherever I decide the new Filch's office would be. And I decided to move that into the kind of circular building over here. And I've actually been thinking how to do it, and I wanted to kind of give you a quick idea of how I approach problems and how I tackled this thing. Apologies for these cards here that I'm kind of doing something else, just had nowhere else to place them. Anyway, so I looked as always for pictures of the Great Hall, kind of big panoramic pictures or some 3D renderings. But in the picture that I always use most often is an overview from the top. And because there you can judge the sizes of the buildings very well. You can judge the length and you can judge the width, and most importantly, you can judge how big certain element or building is compared to another building. And if you have the whole castle from a eagle's view, then it's easy to kind of determine your proportions that are kind of required for you to build. So I opened the picture, eagle's eye view of this section of the castle, where you could see the roof of the Great Hall, the courtyard from the top and from above, and the roof of the building that I wanted to build. And then once I measured that on my big screen, I saw that the roof diameter of the building is roughly 41 to 42% of the distance from here to here on the courtyard. Then I actually went here and I measured the distance from here to here in centimeters. Once I had that, I calculated how much is 42% of this distance. And that turned out to be roughly 21 centimeters. 21 centimeters is up to here-ish, which is 27, give or take, studs. So that gave me the kind of the, well, it's not exactly clear, but the rough idea that the diameter of the building, or at least the roof, should be 27 studs. And once I knew that, I thought about that the roof is probably a bit wider than the building, and checking my list of making circles, because it's a circular building, told me that it would look a lot better if it's an even number of studs, the diameter, so I made it 26. So that way I knew that the diameter of the building would be maybe 26 or 24. Now I ended up making it 26, which it looks okay. And now I'm going to show you what the building actually looks like currently. Now, first thing that comes to mind, the building might be not tall enough. And why is that? The main problem is that the building itself kind of, if we imagine that there is a fence here, because there is a fence going all around the Great Hall, but if the fence is somewhere here where the plate ends, then we have this building somewhere here, because maybe a quarter of the circle is overlapping with this surface. And we have a lot of rocks here, ideally, and the building itself, the surface is not even, because there is a slope gradually going downwards, so there has to be more building over here, but now I've just built it flat. So there will actually be more to this that will go downwards, but it will not be a full circle. My idea is to just fake the building's width with, when I'm just building the rock pattern, we'll add a little section that we slide underneath. Now don't pay attention to these miscolorations that will be changed eventually. But we'll have this side here kind of going downwards, and this side here will be this tall, while over here, overlapping with the rocks, we'll have more of the building. And it will kind of go downwards with the rock pattern. But the important thing is that the building part that is starting from the ground level needs to be as tall as the courtyard wall. And I've pretty much achieved that. I think the difference is one plate, which is fine. So that is okay. Also, it might be, at times I thought it might be a little bit too wide, but if you position it correctly, which is actually not necessary to be positioned quite at a perfect angle, it actually matches up well enough. because this side kind of reaches this window in this wall, which is fine proportion wise. And I have used the same technique that I'm planning to use for the grand staircase, and it's just in a smaller scale naturally. What I did do is create this pattern on a little plate, thought whether the dimensions were proper, and then I actually built around it. And again, this is all solid. The base is double stacked plates, so it's very stable. And the second thing I want to mention is the windows, because you want to build windows in this circular-ish shape, and it's kind of problematic. Initially, I wanted to build them in a different place, but because you see, for example, the steps is like 2 studs, then 2, then 1s, then 2s again. And if you have them, for example, here, if you look at the building from the front, you see the window, but then you turn it, for example, like this, and then the window that is here is hidden. You don't see it anymore. So I opted for this kind of variation where the window is at an angle. So if you turn the building, you always see the window. So each window is kind of positioned that way. Now, currently it looks a little bit weird because the colors that I've chosen are tan, because I don't have hinge plates that are dark reddish brown, sorry. But I'll get those pieces, and basically what will be reddish brown is these two 1x1 tiles, these 1x2 cheese slopes, and over here is a plate, hinge plate, which will also be in reddish brown. As for the interior, I have simply just placed the random elements that were in the previous version of Filcher's office over here, and I've just thrown them in here because I want to do the floor first. This time I've decided it's important to make the floor beforehand before I place everything back in. And now, since we have more space here, actually 26 to, well, if we include the walls, it should be 24 from the widest side to the other side of the wall. Studs will have plenty of space, so what we'll end up doing is most likely increase the size of the items inside. For example, Filch's desk will be slightly bigger. We'll add like a cupboard or maybe more chests. I've even thought about adding more rooms. For example, there will be just like a walled off section that is maybe a third or a quarter of the whole room, of the whole building, that will be kind of a storage space. But I've not really decided on that yet. But before that, I will actually add some variations to the walls, because I want to have different kind of leaves and grass and some kind of moss around the building, some similar to this root that is sticking out that I'm just trying out at first. Now the door is another thing. Now, where should the door face? I'm thinking currently that the door should be facing over here, because if you look at the pictures and you see this side of the building, there is no door here. Seen maybe a couple of pictures where the door is from this side, but I think it would be better if it's here, because I'm planning to have a little alley here, walkway, and you'll be able to kind of reach the building from the inner section, and I think that would be best. Now, do we want to place the building like this, or find a way to kind of place it in a strange manner. For example, like this. Now that will make it a bit weird because obviously it's not Lego accurate, you know, but I don't know. We'll probably end up placing it something like this. After I did this, I decided that rather than work towards the building outside or maybe building the floor, I wanted to really figure out the roof. And again, it's a bit of a problem because the weird shape of the circle really makes it kind of strange to build a decent roof. And initially I wanted to build like a little support system and just have folding plates cover it. But I really hate that initially because it's flaky and kind of lazy, and I'm really not a fan of that technique even in sets that I've seen. I believe the Hagrid's hut has something like that. It works there, but for this building it just didn't look like something I wanted to do. And it turns out, well, if you build a roof hat for a gigantic building like this and another smaller hat over there, then stick to your guns and go the most expensive route again. So this is what the roof looks like currently. And why is that? Because it requires actually maybe 300-ish of these 2x2 slopes. And although I had what I thought was quite a few of those, over 100, this is what I managed to build with the inventory I currently possess. And yeah, now it turns out, because I bought these very cheaply a while ago, it turns out that these pieces are quite expensive and not very easy to obtain. Nobody in my local shops has any of those. And I need about 150 or 200 to finish this roof, which actually looks pretty nice. I'd say that's half of it, pretty much. And it will end up closing up to here, leaving a little circle. And I've even calculated how tall this will be. Initially, the roof should be half the height of the building, which is pretty much what it would end up being according to my calculations, which should be fine. And again, same idea. I left a couple of studs here, like 2 here and 2 here for the roof to attach. And again, it will be very easy to pick up, to remove. And yeah, the only problem is the cost. I think I'll have to pay maybe, if it's 50 euros for the remaining slopes, it will be actually good. But starting to feel like it might end up being more expensive than that. But anyway, I like the way it will look, and it will be accurate enough, and it will be easy to remove. It will be practical, so it's worth to me. Now, the pattern is pretty much the same as the building. That was kind of a challenge to replicate because I wanted the roof to be a little bit wider, but following the same pattern. So basically, imagine there is like another circle around this one, following exactly the same pattern, and you could fit it like a ring around the building. And you will figure out exactly how big and wide the roof is. And that's why it looks kind of appropriate. So when you place the roof, there is one stud of space that's sticking out of the walls to the side, exactly, no matter from which side you look. And yeah, that's very important to me, and it was kind of difficult or at least time consuming to figure it out properly, because you need to work with these plates. You need to place them properly and test out, but after you figure it out, it's pretty straightforward. And yeah, that's the time I had to build, because I've been pretty busy, but actually pretty happy that I even found time to build this much. So now I'm thinking I'll start by building the floor. We'll figure out the floor. I want to put some kind of interesting pattern in there, although I know that the floor in Filcher's office is supposed to be pretty basic at the same time. So I might end up mixing up 2 to 3 colors. They'll probably be dark tan, or light bluish gray with dark bluish gray, something like that. Maybe I'll even avoid dark tan at all completely. And I'll either put some interesting pattern on random places, or I'll put random patterns on random places, just so it doesn't look too tidy. We'll see what I end up doing. So after I do that, I will place the various items. I will build a couple of storage sections, see what also pops up. I will read again the entry for what is known for Filcher's office and what items one can find there. See if I get some additional inspiration for that. And then I will slightly modify the outside of the walls. So I can add some vines, some moss, some different things. I will try not to add too many things, but still, I don't want. I want to have some different things coming out. And hopefully, the parts that I will need and that I will order for the windows in the right colors will arrive soon. So you can actually be able to appreciate what these windows look like, because right now they look very strange. Even without the camera, I just look at it and just the color just comes into the wall and you can't really see and appreciate the mechanic of the windows, but I think it will look great. Again, the windows, they're not placed randomly. We have 4 windows in this kind of height here, and they're placed in the same spot. This window is facing exactly the one opposite, and same with these. And then we have 8 more windows here. Again, all 12 windows are placed at an angle, so you can see them when you turn the building, or when you turn your head, obviously, to look at the building. And they're following the same pattern. This window here has a buddy over there, and same thing with the others. But this window was on the lower section is exactly the same distance to this window as to this window. So it's exactly in between these two, just on a lower level. So the distance between the windows is always the same, which kind of is honoring the idea of the building itself. And I think it also looks pretty nice because it's symmetrical. So next time, hopefully, I will be able to show you most of this. 2 weeks, I don't know if it's enough time for all these parts to come to me and reach me. Especially that these, I'm not really sure still where to order. The rest will probably be here, but this I have significant doubts. But I just wanted to show you my idea, my thought process, and what you could imagine this will look like eventually. That's pretty much it. Once again, I will see you again in 2 weeks. Hopefully, plenty more to show. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and join my Discord that you can find on my profile page if you want to say hi, or just share an idea, or just give some feedback. Thank you for watching. I will see you very soon. Bye, guys.